Hi, hello, and welcome. Today, we're diving into the beautiful and vibrant Philippines. Get ready to explore stunning islands, taste delicious local dishes, and experience the warm hospitality that makes this country so special. Let's jump right in. On a damp, fog-shrouded night, Jackson found himself standing alone at the edge of the platform, a lone figure silhouetted against the empty tracks. His train was late, far too late. His watch showed midnight had come and gone, yet the silence remained absolute, save for the faint whistling of a cold, unsettling wind that carried with it whispers of forgotten travelers and the chilling echo of lives that once passed through here. Jackson shivered, his breath misting in the cold night air. He clutched his bag tighter, feeling the uneasy stillness sink into his skin, and glanced nervously down the track. But the darkness swallowed everything beyond a few feet, leaving him with the haunting sensation that he was completely alone. He checked his watch again, more to occupy himself than to learn the time. It didn't matter now. He was trapped in a timeless, spectral place where hours held no meaning, and his only companion was the silent shadow of the old platform. Suddenly, movement caught Jackson's eye, a figure emerging from the shadows at the far end of the station. As the figure came closer, Jackson saw that it was a station master, his uniform threadbare, out of place, as if he had stepped out of another era. His eyes were dark, hollow, filled with a distant sadness, and his movements were slow and almost mechanical. When he finally came to a stop beside Jackson, he tilted his head and looked at him with an expression that was both knowing and profoundly unsettling. The station master raised a hand in a silent greeting, and though he said nothing, Jackson felt an undeniable sense of recognition, as if this stranger had been waiting for him for longer than he could comprehend. The station master's eyes didn't just look at him, they looked through him, as if he could see everything Jackson had ever been or would ever become. Then, the stillness shattered as a low rumble filled the air. Jackson turned his gaze down the tracks, where two faint lights, like dull, dying stars, appeared in the distance. The rumble grew louder, the oppressive silence now replaced by an ominous anticipation that weighed on Jackson's chest. The fog rolled back, revealing the dark shape of a train as it approached the station with a haunting, metallic groan. This was no ordinary train. Its metal frame was rusted and cracked, covered in a layer of grime that seemed decades old. Windows lined its sides, but they were darkened, hiding whatever shadows lay within. Jackson could almost feel the age of the train, as if it carried with it the weight of forgotten souls and lost time. The train screeched to a halt, and the station fell silent once more. Jackson took an involuntary step backward, his instincts warning him to leave, to run far from this place. But the station master's gaze held him in place, his eyes gleaming with something that Jackson could only describe as inevitability. The doors slid open with a shriek that reverberated through the air, and darkness spilled out from within, an unnatural void that seemed to consume the faint light around it. Jackson squinted, peering into the blackness, and felt a chill race down his spine. A figure stood there, barely visible, a mere shadow among shadows. But there was something disturbingly familiar about it. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, the figure stepped forward, and Jackson froze. He was looking at himself, or rather, a reflection, a dark, hollow version of himself. This doppelganger smiled, a cold, vacant smile that set icy fear creeping through Jackson's veins. The station master gestured to the train, his movements slow, deliberate, as if guiding a lost soul toward its final destination. There was no need for words. His presence alone spoke of fate, of destinies written long before this night. The train had come for Jackson, and there was no escaping it. Jackson's heart pounded as he looked back at the train. Shadows moved within, faces pressed against the glass, all watching him with lifeless, empty eyes. These were passengers, trapped in an endless journey, their expressions locked in eternal despair. And yet, among the shadows, he saw something else, a reflection of himself, his own face staring back at him from within the train, pale and ghostly, a distorted echo of who he was. The figure, the dark reflection, extended a hand, beckoning him to step aboard. Jackson felt his body move, compelled by an unseen force. He tried to resist, but his legs betrayed him, dragging him forward, closer and closer to the waiting darkness. Every fiber of his being screamed to turn back, to flee, yet his feet carried him closer, as if drawn by an invisible thread. He felt the coldness of the train's interior, a chilling emptiness that seeped into his bones. His doppelganger watched him, expression unchanging, eyes devoid of life. Jackson took a trembling step inside, and the doors slammed shut behind him with a final, echoing clang that resounded through the silent station. In the darkness, he felt himself surrounded by the other passengers. Faces turned to him, their eyes empty, their mouths frozen in silent screams. These were not just any passengers, they were reflections of his own fears, his regrets, the moments he had left behind. They watched him, and he could feel the weight of their judgment, the cold, accusing silence that filled the air. As the train began to move, the station drifted away, swallowed by the fog. The platform, the flickering lights, and the ghostly station master faded into the distance, leaving only darkness outside the windows. Jackson's own reflection stared back at him from the glass, his face pale and drawn, a shadow of the man he had once been. The rumble of the train grew louder, and the shadows inside shifted, pressing closer, their lifeless eyes fixed on Jackson as if waiting for him to join them fully. He realized, with a chilling certainty, that this was no ordinary journey. This train had no destination, no end. It was a journey through his own darkness, an endless ride through the shadows of his soul. The last thing he remembered was the sound of the whistle, a haunting, mournful cry that echoed through the void. Then, everything went silent, and Jackson became just another shadow on the train, a forgotten soul trapped in an endless journey, lost between worlds. And so, the train continued on its ghostly route, winding through the night, collecting the souls of those who had missed their way, forever bound to the darkness, forever searching for a place they would never find.